Hey everyone, welcome. I hope you are enjoying the day and thank you for being here. Today I want to describe how does the platform for Bitcoin capital markets would look like, at least to me. And my name is Orkun Kılıç. I am founder of Citrea, which you will soon learn about. So to start with, obviously the Bitcoin, right? It's 16 years old, and by definition in the white paper, it's electronic cash that would allow online payments to go through without any financial institution. So there are two main value proposition here. Obviously, one is the payments. It is very focused on single topic, right? It's just the payments. And the second is the main important thing maybe here is there is no middleman or there is no institutions. It is fully trustless. So these two are basically the main properties of Bitcoin, but it's not the only properties of Bitcoin. So it's the oldest crypto asset, right? It's the largest crypto asset. It's the most well-known. And the payment basically means that it was actually created as a medium of exchange rather than a store of value. But today, it's actually more like a store of value where people store their wealth in instead of using it for the payments. And they use other assets for the payments. Outside of Bitcoin, it grew a lot, right? Obviously, in this conference, probably the 90% of talks are actually about other stuff, not Bitcoin, maybe even 95. And what are those things, right? It's the altcoins. There are a bunch of them. The stable coins, obviously, they've been around for some time, but they are taking off more aggressively. RWAs, and all of them actually creates broader use cases than just payments, which is DeFi, structured products, prediction markets, options on chain, and basically a bunch of other different use cases. But Bitcoin is still the king, right? Even though the crypto ecosystem has very tremendous and big growth, Bitcoin still remains the most dominant asset in crypto, even though the others also grow. So it has all the trillions of dollars of market cap to support a potential growth, and it's just going steadily up, independent from what's happening outside of Bitcoin. And it's not it. Bitcoin still has trillions of dollars worth of growth in front of it, because right now it is just 0.2% of total global wealth. This is a report from River, which you should probably check out. And if you estimate that Bitcoin will take actually 50% of the store of value market, then Bitcoin still has more than $200 trillion worth of growth in front of it. And this is basically 100 times more than what it is today. And in crypto, generally, if you look to the other talks, or if you talk with any VCs or the liquid funds, everything else in crypto actually exists to accumulate more Bitcoin or more wealth, right? And all the speculative assets that you are hearing about, or the venture funds, liquid funds, now digital asset treasury companies, they all benchmark against Bitcoin, but most of the time they fall short because Bitcoin is the king. So is it bearish for everything else outside of Bitcoin? I don't think so, because it's similar to the real world, right? People try to accumulate more gold or more wealth, but it's not the only asset in real world. There are all the securities, all the commodities. They generally exist to accumulate more wealth, but they have a different use case, different specialty, and different goal coming to that path. If Bitcoin is the king, then you may ask why it is not the most active asset in DeFi, or why it doesn't have a DeFi ecosystem, because there's a very big problem associated with Bitcoin. It is very, very isolated from all the other markets, even internally. This is not just a technical problem, but it's also a cultural problem. If you see all these Bitcoin wrappers on different chains like Ethereum and Solana, which are actually competing with Bitcoin for almost the same goal, and because of its connection to also the energy markets through mining, it has a very significant TradFi and energy exposure, and they all live off-chain in stock markets, such as miner stocks, or different kind of hash rate derivatives, private credit to the miners. These are not on-chain at all, and they are usually not seen relevant to Bitcoin in the crypto ecosystem, but I disagree. The problem comes with this is, actually the problem maybe creates this set of problems is there is no all-in-one platform that will satisfy all the needs and provide all the features for the Bitcoin ecosystem to be more maybe composable or all together. And one of the biggest problems in here is the counterparty risk while deploying liquidity is very high in crypto ecosystem. Imagine you are using Rep BTC or Coinbase BTC. There's a counterparty there, like Bitco or Coinbase, who actually takes custody of your funds, unlike Bitcoin's primary purpose, and gives you a receipt token that you can use in DeFi, but it's not actually a DeFi, right? Because you have a very strong counterparty risk. Maybe if you're an institution, that's fine, because you usually have a commercial agreements and everything else in place with these companies. But if you are retail, you will probably be the first one that gets rugged whenever something happens to these receipt tokens. And the second problem is there is no platform that serves beyond payments in Bitcoin, but focuses on more composability across Bitcoin ecosystem, including this tokenized hash rate, the stable coins, and RWAs. And that's also a big problem. The only layer right now you can think is Lightning, which is very, very focused on the payments. And the third is, if you assume this $200 trillion growth in the maybe next 10 years, there is no simple non-custodial onboarding flow for Bitcoin. You always go through centralized exchanges or similar products to actually buy your first Bitcoin, and that's a big barrier to maybe adopt the standards of Bitcoin. So we fix it with Citrea, and Citrea is the first platform that enables Bitcoin to function as a programmable money rather than just a passive asset. So far, all the things that you've seen is actually coming from a single problem. There is no platform to use Bitcoin like other crypto assets or in tandem with other crypto assets. Instead of you have to go to the TradFi, you have to go to Bitcoin L1, you have to go to maybe Lightning or other layers to do the things that you need to do with your Bitcoin, and Citrea targets to fix this. You may ask how, right? There are these 3 points that I talked about. One is liquidity, the other is composability, and the third is simple onboarding for newcomers. And the first point, we solved this with Clementine, which is our bridge that's based on a technology called BitVM. A lot of terminology here, but to put it simply, BitVM is a way to verify the ZK proofs on Bitcoin L1. And that's a valuable proposition because now, instead of having a counterparty like a custodian, you have MET as your counterparty. And you can always trust MET, but not just random institutions. And the Clementine is basically a bridge built on top of this technology. And I put it real there because it's a very hot term to use BitVM nowadays, but we have this white paper written by researchers from Common Prefix that also has an informal security proof that you can review, and it's actually probably will be the only one that's working in production in a secure way. And what it enables is maybe a more important question, but you can actually use this bridge to move your Bitcoin to a platform that doesn't require trust. And compared to the other alternatives you may heard today, they all have some sort of counterparty risk coming from either a multisig or a custodian. And the other thing is how to have a composable Bitcoin ecosystem, right? Our strategy here is to incubate and onboard Bitcoin native financial primitives and assets, such as Bitcoin-backed loans, Bitcoin-backed stablecoins, other stablecoins, structured products, hash rate futures, and everything else you actually have outside of Bitcoin today. And how to have a simple onboarding flow for newcomers coming to the Bitcoin. Thanks to Citrea's technology, we have account abstraction that's actually a very strong primitive that allows developers to build more expressive accounts, such as passkey-based, such as sponsored transactions, such as social login flows. And we have much faster transactions. It's just 2 seconds, essentially, and much lower fees than Bitcoin L1. And these two are the applications that we are actually incubating right now. Tanner is, simply put, a Bitcoin fintech application that doesn't have a complex onboarding flow because you actually use your Face ID to sign transactions and log into your wallet. It doesn't require trust. It doesn't have the seed phrase complexity. So it's much better than the existing alternatives we have today. And Crest is also similar that allows you to log in socially and buy and sell Bitcoin without any slippage or usually gets abstracted as well. So we are building for Bitcoin capital markets. Bitcoin is huge and will grow even more. Right now, there is $1.3 trillion held by individuals. This is always an estimation from tracking Bitcoin addresses, but we plan to grow this adoption even more by these Bitcoin applications we are incubating and building. And there is actively $150 billion in the institutional capital, excluding ETFs, held by private and public companies that actually seek yield on top of their Bitcoin, just like the other assets they have in their portfolio. And with this total addressable market of $225 trillion, we have to have these people coming to Bitcoin first time through a simple and non-custodial flow, unlike going through centralized exchanges. So the market is actually quite big, right? And why Citrea is positioned to build Bitcoin capital markets? Because it's Bitcoin native, unlike others such as sidechains or the competing chains like you are hearing here all day. They're actually competing with Bitcoin, but essentially Citrea is an extension to Bitcoin that would allow all of these to happen. And it is a very strong ecosystem that you can check out from the web page or the applications I even told you that we are helping to build. And it has a very strong institutional backing as well from our investors such as Galaxy, such as Founders Funds. And we are working with a bunch of private and public Bitcoin companies to bring more capital into Bitcoin DeFi markets to allow people to trade better, borrow better, and do everything they need to do with their Bitcoin. So let the era of Bitcoin capital markets begin. Thank you for listening to me today. Our testnet is live, you can check it out, and our mainnet is coming quite soon. So these are the links that you probably need to follow, especially our X, which we provide more frequent updates. But I will be right outside of this room to have your questions if you have any, and hope you have a nice second day as well. Thank you all.